Hello everyone, this is Dr. Scott Burgess. Welcome to the first module on small unmanned aircraft systems as a part of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University Worldwide Campus's massive open online course. We're giving this to you from the College of Aeronautics. This will be the first of two modules, and if you watch my brief introductory video, you know that we'll be covering a lot of information in a fairly short period of time. There will be 4 short lectures in Module 1. So let's get started. The goal is to be able to focus the MOOC on those that are new to the small unmanned aircraft systems market, or SUAS, providing you with an entry-level knowledge of several aspects. First of all is SUAS basics. How are they described? We'll also talk about general UAS operating environments, where you can operate, where you can't, where the UAS environment is going as a whole, and how is it changing? In Module 2, we'll talk about the National Airspace System, or NAS, and we'll talk about safe flying procedures throughout both modules. We'll take a look at SUAS flight approval process, from recreationists to hobbyists, and remote pilot certification in Module 1, but then we'll jump ahead in Module 2 and look a little bit more in depth, specifically at 333 exemptions. We'll also look at the COA process, or Certificate of Authorization process, as a whole, and really how public entities and commercial entities differ in their ability to fly and to get the approval process through the FAA and to fly their aircraft within the National Airspace System. The MOOC includes a 2-week forum to give the students an opportunity to ask the experts. There's an entire group of faculty members that we have ready to jump in and help, and these guys are out there working in the industry as we speak, as well as being faculty for us. So you've got a great wealth of information available to you. Before you ask the experts any questions, however, we have something called an FAQ page, and the fact page is simply there to possibly answer your question already. And should we not have the information that you want, then by all means, go to the Ask the Expert page. So really, before we dive in, what we really need to cover briefly are some of the definitions that you're going to see throughout your experience of becoming a UAV pilot, perhaps, or just in studying the materials that you're going to study in this course. The first of the definitions, of course, is airworthiness. And in airworthiness, we're essentially talking about the condition of an aircraft, that it conforms to its certification capability. And while we don't necessarily have airworthiness certificates for small UAS, you never know what's going to happen down the road. So it's always good to understand these terminologies. You'll have in aviation altitude described in many ways. What we're primarily going to be concerned with is above ground level. Now, you may see another type of altitude that's displayed, altitude above launch, and typically with some of the systems in a semi-autonomous mode, you will basically be flying on a pre-planned flight within a program, say Pix-4D or Tower, and the aircraft will maintain whatever altitude that you want on that leg of the flight, or even in a stationary position. But generally, that's based upon the launch altitude. Autonomous flight is flight that's not controlled by others outside, so that independent judgment type of concept. The next is command and control link, and essentially these systems are supporting the exchange of information between the ground control station and the actual airframe that's being flown by the pilot. The communications link, that's the link that we essentially are talking to other NAS users, other pilots that are flying near or close to us. We want them to be aware, and that's typically done with a handheld VHF radio, for instance. First person view is something you've probably heard or seen, definitely with the advertising of goggles, first person view goggles that have been out there for programs you can put on your smartphone. But essentially, first person view for a small UAS is not a visual line of sight thing. It is essentially you're using the camera on board the aircraft in order to identify your location and the direction of flight that you're going. Can't be construed or misconstrued with first person view. A flyaway is essentially an interruption of that control link. okay, or complete loss, and some aircraft will automatically do a pre-programmed return to home function, but some don't. You need to understand that a flyaway is essentially you're not or no longer in control of the aircraft, and it could be in a unpredictable type of scenario. A ground control station is that control device that you're using to control your small unmanned aircraft. Lost link, kind of as I said before, was essentially losing that command control, that C2 link between the ground control station and the aircraft, either going from the GCS up to the aircraft or in a downlink as well. So the observer is a trained person who is certified to observe the aircraft and what it's doing. Their primary focus is collision avoidance and navigational awareness. A remote pilot certificate is simply an FAA rating, or small UAS rating issued under Part 107, and it is also that remote pilot with a small UAS rating, I should say. The two next terms are important. You're going to hear these kind of intermixed in some cases throughout the course. An unmanned aircraft is just the aircraft that you're not inside. It is unmanned, and you cannot intervene that aircraft in flight from within the aircraft or on it. But a system is essentially that aircraft and those command and control elements of that system. Okay, so the controller, the aircraft, and then any support equipment that you would have for that particular aircraft. Additional resources is important to know. There's going to be a lot of information in there. You're more than welcome to dig into it as deeply as you want. Make sure you check those out. This course is really just one small aspect of the broader knowledge that you really should have as you move forward to fly a UA in the National Airspace System for whatever purpose, be it for recreational, commercial, public use, doesn't really matter. Depending on your background, each of these resources will really provide you with very different perspectives on the world of UAS. Whether you're a manned pilot, certified manned pilot right now and just want to learn more about it, or whether you're a teenager that's looking at, well, is this a career I want to take? Or anywhere in between. For those that are new and not really those actual pilots, you will look at things very differently to somebody who's already flown and has that air sense. And so hopefully some of the information in this course is going to help give a little bit of that to you. Some members of the course are actually taking it to really see if they'll even want to fly one in the future, and that's fantastic. You'll definitely go into that decision or that action armed with knowledge, and that's what's important, that you'll be ready to actually go out and be safe in the national airspace. And that should lower some of that tension or that apprehension to want to do so. Because you really need to know what you're up against. Getting out into that national airspace, you don't want to cause an accident. You know, that situational awareness is so important, and really getting into the details in this course is going to help you do that. One of the key things to remember that you're a pilot. If you're out there and you take that aircraft off the ground, you are performing as a pilot. Okay, whether it's recreational or hobbyist or commercial, you're going to be flying in the National Airspace System, whether it be in Brazil, in Europe, in Asia, wherever you are. Okay, so you really need to understand what the rules are and don't take that lightly. Even a small UAS can cause huge damage or death to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, or the aircraft loses power, or it gets sucked into an engine, or it causes somebody to veer at the last second and lose control of the aircraft. So these are serious things. You need to understand those rules and regulations of wherever you're going to be operating. So let's be responsible about that fact, and that when you leave this course, you have the potential to be a pilot, a safe pilot out there in the national airspace. Matter of fact, if you're in the U.S., one of the safest national airspace systems the world knows. So second, we really need to look at the UAS rules as common sense up front. Okay, don't try to memorize them because that's what Uncle Sam wants you to know to regurgitate on a test. Look at them from a common sense perspective, and that will help you consume that knowledge and remember it. Don't worry about the fact of so much as the rule XYZ states you should or shouldn't do this. But read the rules and understand that most of them are based on common sense. And we'll talk about that as we go through the course. Finally, when in doubt, stay on the ground. If you're not ready and you don't understand, or you have just something inking back in your mind that says, there's something doesn't feel right. Well, go back inside, do a little bit more research, make some phone calls if you need to, talk to other people that fly in the national airspace or their radio controlled aircraft pilots. Find out what's bothering you, because again, you can trust your gut feelings in many cases because they're often right. So let's go ahead and get started more in depth with the next presentation, and it's labeled About UAS. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited that you're here. Now, let's go out and have some fun.